the Hill for us. Joining us now, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky. Nice to have you here, Congressman.
Thanks for having me on, Poppy.
Look, you were going to vote no on this. You're not exactly in the best place with the president on the health care bill right now. Let me just read your response to the president tweeting and taking on the House Freedom Caucus. You wrote, "At real Donald Trump, it's a swamp, not a hot tub. We both came here to drain it. Swamp care polls at 17%. Sad." Here's the thing. This is a president who's saying to the Dems, basically, I'll work with you over some of these fellow Republicans. Are you worried about your own party getting too fractured that you're just not going to be able to get anything done?
Well, look, we were excited when Donald Trump said he was going to come and help us drain the swamp, but he's listening to people in the swamp on this health care bill. And if you also notice in that same tweet where he lashed out at the House Freedom Caucus, he lashed out at every Democrat. And the math just doesn't work if he wants to get to 218. He's either going to have to work with Democrats or conservatives in the House. He can't, he can't alienate both groups of people, or else he'll just never get to 218. So we want to drain the swamp. That's popular in our districts. We think that's why Trump won his election. He promised to drain the swamp, and we're going to stick with that promise. We don't believe that this health care bill is something that our constituents support. My calls are running 11-1 against this health care bill.
11-1. That's interesting. Look, but you also said, very critical of the president, that you essentially think that if you know, your fellow Kentuckian, if I'm saying that right, Senator Rand Paul, were president, that Obamacare would have already been fully repealed. I mean, what tells you that you would have had enough votes for a bill like that?
Well, you know, we've offered elements of Rand Paul's solution up, and they passed with overwhelming support. In fact, we had another element of what we think is the solution that was on the floor of the House. You
can get the Tuesday group, you can get enough votes that way?
Well, look, last week, we offered a bill on the floor of the House that got 400 votes, and nobody's reporting it. It was to repeal the antitrust exemption that health insurance companies enjoy. They're allowed to collude, and that drives up prices. So we offered a solution. It got not 218, it got 400 votes. Let's offer solutions like that and being able to buy across state lines.
That is very different than offering a bill to fully repeal Obamacare.
Yes. Well, there are 3 elements inside the bill they tried to pass last week. I think he can get conservatives on board with 2 of the elements. That is the Medicaid reform. It saves $800 billion, and we can put that toward tax reform. And then also the repeal. Now, if he wants to do Obamacare light, he's probably going to need Democrats to pass a bill that has mandate subsidies and penalties that look just like the mandate subsidies and penalties in Obamacare. So but they're never going to vote for Obamacare light if they've got Obamacare.
Are you as worried as your speaker, Paul Ryan, is about this president working with Dems?
I think that's a bluff. You know, the president bluffed several times last week. He said there was going to be a vote whether it passed or failed. Well, that didn't happen. He also said that negotiations are over. Well, that clearly wasn't true. And so, you know, I think this is just another one of his bluffs, because within 12 hours, he lashed back out at the Democrats in that same tweet. So I just don't see how he gets to 218 if he tries to alienate everybody.
Are you calling the president a liar?
No, he's a good negotiator, and sometimes you bluff in a negotiation, and we called his bluff last week. He also said we're done working on health care. That's obviously not true this week. You know, we can't just give up and go home. We made a promise to fix this. Obamacare's a disaster.
Have you had any conversations with the White House or anyone in the White House about health care since the bill was pulled Friday?
I have not, other than the Twitter exchange that we've had.
Yeah. All right. You guys love your Twitter. Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Poppy.
All right. Still to come for us, the bees.